Maya Chin stood outside the grand concert hall. The building was very big and very beautiful. Tall windows showed golden light inside. She could hear soft music coming from the doors. People in expensive clothes walked past her. They did not look at her. She was invisible to them. Maya was 34 years old. She worked as a cleaning woman. Every night she came to this same concert hall. She cleaned the floors. She emptied the trash. She wiped the seats. But tonight was different. Tonight she was not here to clean. In her hand, she held a small card. It was an invitation to the Steinway Gala. This was the biggest music event of the year. The best pianists in the world came here. Famous composers came here. Important critics came here. Maya was none of these things. She was just a woman who cleaned floors. She had found the invitation 3 days ago. It was in a trash can near the office. Someone had thrown it away. Maybe they could not come. Maybe they did not want to come. Maya did not know. But when she saw it, her heart beat very fast. She looked at the beautiful gold letters. She read the date and time again and again. Something inside her said she must go. For 3 months, Maya had saved money. She did not buy coffee. She did not buy new shoes even when her old ones had holes. She ate rice and vegetables every day. Nothing else. Also, she could buy one dress. She found it in a small shop that sold old clothes. It was black and simple. It cost $42. To Maya, it was the most beautiful dress in the world. Now she stood in this dress outside the concert hall. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was beating so loud she could hear it in her ears. What was she doing here? She did not belong here. These people were rich. These people were important. She was nobody. A woman in a red dress walked past. She wore diamonds around her neck. The diamonds caught the light and sparkled like stars. The woman looked at Maya for 1 second. Then she looked away. Maya felt very small, but she did not leave. She thought about her grandmother. Her grandmother had lived in a small village in China. She had no money. She had no education. But she believed in Maya. She always said Maya was special. She always said Maya would do great things. Maya closed her eyes and remembered her grandmother's face. She took a deep breath. Then she walked toward the door. The man at the door looked at her invitation. He looked at her dress. He looked at her face. For a long moment he said nothing. Maya felt her face become hot. She wanted to run away. Then the man nodded and stepped aside. She was inside. The ballroom was more beautiful than Maya had imagined. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. They held hundreds of small lights. The lights made everything glow soft and warm. The floor was so clean she could see her reflection in it. Round tables with white cloths filled the room. On each table were flowers and candles. Everything smelled like roses and expensive perfume. Maya walked slowly. She tried not to touch anything. She tried not to look at anyone for too long. People stood in groups. They talked and laughed. They held glasses of champagne. They looked comfortable and happy. Maya felt like a bird that had flown into the wrong tree. She found a quiet corner near a tall plant. She stood there and watched. A man played soft music on a piano near the stage. Maya listened to every note. The music was like water flowing over rocks. It was peaceful and beautiful. She closed her eyes and let the sound fill her heart. This was why she came. Not for the fancy food. Not for the beautiful room. For the music. Maya loved music more than anything in the world. Music was the only thing that made her feel alive. When she heard piano music, she felt like she was flying. All her problems disappeared. All her sadness went away. There was only the music. She opened her eyes and looked at the piano. It was a Steinway grand piano, black and shining. The most beautiful instrument in the world. Maya's fingers moved a little. They remembered something. They wanted to touch those keys. But she pushed the feeling down. That was not her life anymore. That life ended long ago. A waiter walked past with a tray of food. Small sandwiches and tiny cakes. Maya was hungry. She had not eaten dinner, but she did not take any food. She felt like she did not deserve it. She was not a guest. She was a pretender. A fake. She was wearing a $42 dress in a room full of people who spent more than that on lunch, but still, she stayed. The music held her there. And somewhere deep inside, a small voice said that tonight would change everything. Victor Ashford stood in the center of the room like a king. People surrounded him. They laughed at his jokes. They nodded at his words. They looked at him with big eyes full of respect. Victor was 52 years old. He had gray hair that was always perfect. He wore a black suit that cost more than Maya earned in 6 months. On his chest was a small gold pin. It said he was a Steinway artist. Only the best pianists in the world got this pin. Victor had won every award a pianist could win. He had played for presidents. He had played for queens and kings. He had performed in the greatest concert halls on every continent. Newspapers called him a genius. Critics called him the best pianist alive. Victor believed them. He believed every word, but Victor was not a kind man. Success had made him proud. Fame had made him cruel. He looked down on people who were not as talented as him. He looked down on people who were not as rich as him. He looked down on almost everyone. Tonight, Victor was the guest of honor. The Steinway Gala was celebrating his 30 years as a performer. There would be speeches about him. There would be a special performance by him. Everyone was here to see him. Victor loved every moment of it. Maya did not know who Victor was. She only knew he was important because everyone watched him. She stayed in her corner and tried to be invisible. She did not want anyone to notice her. She did not want anyone to ask questions, but fate had other plans. Maya was thirsty. Her mouth was dry from nervousness. She saw a table with glasses of water and champagne. She walked toward it slowly. She kept her eyes down. She did not want to bump into anyone. She did not want to cause any trouble. She reached for a glass of water. At the same moment, a man turned around quickly. His elbow hit her arm. The glass flew from her hand. Water and champagne splashed everywhere. Most of it landed on a pair of expensive leather shoes. Maya looked up in horror. The shoes belonged to Victor Ashford. The room became very quiet. People stopped talking. They all turned to look. Maya felt like the whole world was watching her. Her face turned red. Her hands started to shake. Victor looked down at his wet shoes. His face twisted with anger. Then he looked at Maya. He looked at her simple black dress. He looked at her cheap shoes. He looked at her nervous face. His anger turned into something worse. It turned into disgust. "Watch where you're going," Victor said. His voice was cold and sharp like a knife. "These shoes cost more than your entire wardrobe." Maya opened her mouth to speak. "I am so sorry," she said. Her voice was small and shaky. "I did not see you. Please forgive me." Victor did not accept her apology. Instead, he looked her up and down again. "This event is for musicians," he said loudly. He wanted everyone to hear. For artists. For people of culture. He paused and smiled a cruel smile. "Not for whatever you are." Several people nearby laughed. One woman covered her mouth, but her eyes were full of amusement. A man in a gray suit shook his head and smirked. They thought it was funny. They thought Maya deserved this treatment. Maya felt tears coming to her eyes. She blinked fast to stop them. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of these people. She looked down at the floor. She did not know what to say. She did not know what to do. "Perhaps you work in the kitchen?" Victor continued. He was enjoying himself now. "Oh, maybe you clean the toilets?" "You certainly look like someone who cleans toilets." More laughter. More cruel smiles. Maya wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. This was a mistake. Coming here was a terrible mistake. She should have stayed home. She should have stayed invisible. A waiter hurried over with napkins. He bent down and started wiping Victor's shoes. Victor ignored him completely. He was still looking at Maya with that terrible smile. Run along now, Victor said. He waved his hand like he was shooing away a fly. Go back to wherever you came from. This is not a place for people like you. Maya turned and walked away. She walked fast, but she did not run. She would not give them that satisfaction. She found her corner again. She stood behind the tall plant. Her whole body was trembling. Her eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. She heard Victor's voice from across the room. He was telling the story to more people. He was making it funnier. He was making Maya sound even more foolish. People laughed again. The sound was like broken glass in her ears. Maya thought about leaving. She thought about going home to her small apartment. She could take off this dress and forget this night ever happened. She could go back to being invisible. It was easier that way. It was safer, but something kept her there. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stubbornness. Or maybe it was the sound of the piano, still playing soft music in the background. The music reminded her of who she used to be. The music reminded her of everything she had lost. So Maya stayed. She stood in her corner and watched and waited. She did not know what she was waiting for. But deep in her heart, she knew the night was not over yet. An hour passed. The soft background music stopped. People started moving toward their seats. It was time for the main event. Victor Ashford was going to speak. Then he was going to play. Maya stayed in her corner. She did not sit at any table. She was too afraid. What if someone asked who she was? What if someone asked her to leave? So she stood near the wall where the shadows were dark and watched. Victor walked onto the stage. The spotlight followed him. He looked very confident. He looked like a man who owned the world. People clapped loudly. Some people stood up. Victor smiled and waved. He loved this moment. He lived for this moment. Thank you, Victor said into the microphone. His voice filled the room. 30 years. Can you believe it? 30 years of making beautiful music. 30 years of touching souls. 30 years of being the very best. He was not being humble. He was not being modest. He was bragging. But the audience did not seem to mind. They nodded and smiled. They were used to Victor's pride. Victor talked for a long time. He talked about his awards. He talked about his famous performances. He talked about all the important people he had played for. Maya listened, but she did not enjoy it. His words were empty. They were all about him. There was no love for music in his speech. There was only love for himself. Then Victor said something that made Maya's blood turn cold. I have noticed something interesting tonight, Victor said. He was smiling his cruel smile again. It seems we have some enthusiasts among us. Some people who love music but do not understand it. Some people who dream of being artists but do not have the gift. He was looking around the room. Maya knew he was looking for her. She pressed herself against the wall. She tried to become part of the shadows. Music is not for everyone, Victor continued. It takes talent. It takes years of training. It takes something special that you are born with. You cannot learn it. You cannot fake it. You either have it or you do not. He paused. His eyes found Maya in her dark corner. She felt his gaze like a cold wind. Perhaps one of these enthusiasts would like to demonstrate, Victor said. His smile grew wider. Perhaps one of them would like to show us what separates true artists from pretenders. The crowd laughed. They thought it was a joke, a funny game. They did not know what was about to happen. Someone near Maya pushed her. She stumbled forward into the light. She did not know who pushed her. Maybe it was someone who wanted to see a show. Maybe it was someone who wanted to see her fail. She turned to look but saw only strangers' faces. Ah! Victor's voice was full of delight. Our clumsy friend from earlier? The one who decorated my shoes with champagne. Please come forward. Come to the stage. Maya stood frozen. Her legs would not move. Her heart beat so fast she thought it might explode. Everyone was looking at her. Hundreds of eyes. Hundreds of faces. All waiting to see what she would do. Come, come, Victor said. He waved his hand toward the stage. Do not be shy. This is your moment. Your chance to shine. Maya's feet started moving. She did not tell them to move. They moved on their own. She walked through the tables. People watched her pass. Some looked curious. Some looked amused. Some looked sorry for her. But nobody helped her. Nobody told Victor to stop. She reached the stage. Victor was standing next to the beautiful Steinway piano. He looked at Maya like a cat looks at a mouse. He was enjoying every second of her fear. Tell me, Victor said. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. Do you even know what a piano is? Have you ever touched one? Or do you just look at them while you mop the floors? Laughter filled the room. Maya felt her face burning. She felt tears building behind her eyes again. But she also felt something else. Something hot and strong in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was anger. I know what a piano is, Maya said. Her voice was quiet but steady. Victor raised his eyebrows. Oh, you speak. How wonderful. And what do you know about pianos? Please educate us. Maya looked at the piano. It was so beautiful. So perfect. The black surface reflected the stage lights like a mirror. The white keys seemed to glow. She had not been this close to a grand piano in 15 years. Her fingers tingled. Her hands remembered things her mind had tried to forget. I know that a piano has 88 keys, Naya said slowly. I know that it can make you cry and laugh in the same song. I know that it can speak when words fail. I know that it does not care if you are rich or poor. It only cares if you have something to say. The room became quiet. Victor's smile flickered for just a moment. Then it came back bigger than before. How poetic, he said. But poetry does not make music. Let us see if you can do more than talk. He stepped aside and pointed to the piano. Play something, anything. Show us your amazing talent. It was a trap. Maya knew it was a trap. Victor wanted her to fail. He wanted to humiliate her in front of everyone. He wanted to prove that people like her did not belong in his world. Maya looked at the piano. She looked at Victor. She looked at the hundreds of faces watching her. Then she made a decision that would change everything. To understand what happened next, you must understand Maya's past. You must know the story she never told anyone. The story she kept locked inside her heart like a bird in a cage. Maya was born in a very small village in China. The village had no name on any map. It had dirt roads and old houses. It had farmers who worked from sunrise to sunset. Maya's family was very poor. Her father fixed bicycles. Her mother washed clothes for other families. They never had enough money. They never had enough food. But they had love. They had so much love. Maya's grandmother lived with them. She was a small woman with white hair and kind eyes. She had never been to school. She could not read or write. But she understood music. She believed music was the voice of the soul. One day, when Maya was 3 years old, her grandmother came home with something special. She had found an old keyboard in a pile of trash behind a rich family's house. It was broken. Many keys did not work. The sound was terrible. But to Maya, it was magic. She touched the keys for the first time. She pressed one down. A note came out. It was not a good note. It was scratchy and weak. But Maya smiled so big that her grandmother started to cry. From that day, Maya played every moment she could. She taught herself. She listened to the radio and tried to copy what she heard. She practiced until her fingers hurt. She practiced until the sun went down and she could not see the keys anymore. By the time she was 7, people in the village started to notice. They said Maya was special. They said she had a gift from heaven. Her grandmother smiled and said she always knew. When Maya was 12, a music teacher from the city came to the village. He heard Maya play. His face turned white. His hands shook. He said he had never heard a child play like this. He said Maya was a prodigy, a genius. The teacher helped Maya get a scholarship to the Shanghai Conservatory. This was one of the best music schools in all of China. Only the most talented students could go there. Maya was the youngest student they had ever accepted. Her parents were so proud. Her grandmother cried and laughed at the same time. Maya was going to have a different life. She was going to escape the village. She was going to make beautiful music for the whole world. For 7 years, Maya studied at the conservatory. She practiced 8 hours every day. She learned from the best teachers. She played in competitions and won every time. Critics said she would be one of the greatest pianists of her generation. They said she would play in the finest concert halls. They said her name would be remembered forever. Maya believed them. She was only 19 years old, but she had big dreams. She was going to move to America. She was going to perform at Carnegie Hall. She was going to make her family proud. Then came the night that changed everything. Maya's parents were driving to see her perform. It was a special concert at the conservatory. Maya was going to play Chopin. Her parents were so excited. They had never seen her play on a real stage before. The road was dark. The rain was heavy. A truck came around a corner too fast. Maya's father tried to turn. He was not fast enough. The police came to the conservatory. They found Maya backstage in her concert dress. They told her the news. Her parents were dead. Both of them. Gone in one terrible moment, Maya screamed. She fell to the floor. She felt like her heart had been ripped out of her chest. The world stopped making sense. Nothing mattered anymore, but the tragedy was not over. Maya was in the car that took her to the hospital. She wanted to see her parents one last time. She wanted to say goodbye. The car was going fast. It was raining again. The driver did not see the other car coming. The second accident was not as bad. The driver was fine, but Maya's left hand was crushed against the door. The bones broke in many places. The nerves were damaged. The doctors worked for hours to save her hand. When Maya woke up, she could not feel her fingers. She could not move them. She looked at her hand and saw a stranger's hand, wrapped in bandages. Swollen and broken, the doctors told her the truth. The nerve damage was permanent. She would never have full control of her left hand again. The trembling would never stop. Playing piano at a professional level was impossible now. In one night, Maya lost everything. Her parents, her career, her dreams, her future, all gone. Washed away in the rain like footprints in sand, her grandmother took care of her. The old woman held Maya while she cried. She stroked her hair and whispered soft words. But even her grandmother could not fix this. Some things cannot be fixed. Maya stayed in China for 1 more year. She could not play piano. She could not even look at one. The sight of black and white keys made her sick. They reminded her of everything she had lost. Then her grandmother died too, quietly in her sleep. And Maya was truly alone. She sold everything she owned. She bought a one-way ticket to America. She wanted to start a new life. A life without music. A life without memories. A life without pain. For 15 years, she worked as a cleaning woman. She never touched a piano. She never talked about her past. She buried it deep inside her where no one could find it until tonight. Until this moment. Standing on a stage with a cruel man waiting for her to fail. Maya stood on the stage. The spotlight was hot on her face. The piano waited in front of her. Black and beautiful and terrifying. 15 years. For 15 years, she had not touched a piano. For 15 years, she had told herself that part of her life was over. She was not a musician anymore. She was not a prodigy anymore. She was just Maya, the cleaning woman. The invisible woman. The woman with a broken hand and a broken heart. Victor was still smiling. He thought he knew what would happen next. He thought Maya would run away. Or maybe she would try to play and fail miserably. Either way, he would win. He would prove his point. He would show everyone that people like Maya did not belong in his world, but something was happening inside Maya. Something she did not expect. Something she could not control. She thought about her grandmother. The old woman had walked 5 miles through the mud to find that broken keyboard. She had carried it all the way home on her back. Her shoes had holes. Her back was bent with age. But she did not stop. She did not give up. She did it all for a 3-year-old girl who had never seen a piano. Maya felt tears in her eyes. Not tears of sadness. Not tears of fear. Tears of memory. Tears of love. She thought about her mother. Her mother had worked so hard. She washed clothes until her hands cracked and bled. She ate less food so Maya could eat more. She stayed awake late at night to listen to Maya practice. She never complained. She never asked for anything in return. She only wanted Maya to be happy. Maya thought about her father. He was a quiet man. He did not say much, but his eyes always sparkled when Maya played. He would close his eyes and smile. He would tap his foot to the music. He was so proud of his daughter. He believed in her more than he believed in anything. These people had sacrificed everything for her. They had given their lives so she could have a chance. And what had Maya done? She had run away. She had hidden. She had let fear and grief win. Victor was still talking. He was making more jokes. The crowd was still laughing. But Maya did not hear them anymore. She was listening to different voices. Voices from the past. Voices that told her she was special. Voices that told her she could do great things. Maya looked at her left hand. It was trembling. It always trembled now. The scars from the accident were still visible. Thin white lines across her skin. A map of pain and loss, but her hand was still there. It still worked. Maybe not perfectly. Maybe not like before, but it was still her hand. Her grandmother's hands had carried a keyboard through the mud. Her mother's hands had washed clothes until they bled. Her father's hands had fixed broken bicycles to earn money for food. What was Maya's excuse? She lifted her chin. She looked at Victor. For the first time tonight, she did not feel afraid of him. She felt something else. She felt pity. This man had everything: talent, fame, money, success, but he had no kindness. He had no soul. All his music was empty. All his awards were meaningless. "I will play," Maya said. Her voice was not loud, but it was clear. It was steady. It was the voice of a woman who had made a decision. Victor's smile flickered. He had not expected this. He had expected her to run. He had expected tears and embarrassment. But here she was, standing tall, looking at him with eyes that did not blink. "Wonderful," Victor said. He stepped aside with a small bow. "Please, the stage is yours. Show us what you can do." He was still mocking her. He still thought she would fail. But there was something in his eyes now. A tiny bit of doubt. A small question. Who was this woman? Maya walked to the piano. Her legs felt strange, like they belonged to someone else. The piano was so close now. She could see every detail. The smooth black wood. The perfect white keys. The gold letters that spelled Steinway. She sat down on the bench. The seat was soft. It was the most comfortable thing she had ever sat on. She placed her hands on her lap. Her left hand was trembling badly. She could see the fingers shaking. The room was silent. Everyone was watching, waiting. Some people expected her to fail. Some people hoped she would fail. A few people felt sorry for her. But no one expected what was about to happen. Maya closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. She smelled the wood of the piano. She felt the cool air of the hall. She heard her own heartbeat. Slow and steady now. Not afraid anymore. In her mind, she saw her grandmother's face. The old woman was smiling. She was nodding. She was saying what she always said. "Play, little one. Play from your heart. The music will take care of the rest." Maya opened her eyes. She lifted her hands. She placed her fingers on the keys. The ivory was cold under her fingertips. It felt familiar. It felt like coming home after a very long journey. Her fingers remembered this feeling. Her hands remembered this position. Her body remembered everything. Maya did not know what she would play. She had not planned anything. But as her fingers touched the keys, she knew. She would play Chopin, Ballade No. 1 in G minor. The piece she was supposed to play the night her parents died. The piece she never got to perform. It was one of the hardest pieces ever written for piano. It needed perfect technique. It needed two strong hands. Maria had neither. Her technique was 15 years rusty. Her left hand was damaged and weak, but she would play it anyway. For her grandmother. For her mother. For her father. For the little girl who once touched a broken keyboard and smiled. She pressed the first key. A single note rang out into the silence, and everything changed. The first notes of Chopin's Ballade filled the room. They were soft and gentle, like a question being asked. Like a memory trying to wake up, Maya's fingers moved slowly, carefully. Her left hand trembled on the keys. She could feel the weakness in her damaged nerves. She could feel the scar tissue pulling against her tendons. The notes were not perfect. They were hesitant, uncertain. Victor crossed his arms. He looked at the other musicians nearby. They exchanged knowing glances. Small smiles. This was exactly what they expected. The cleaning woman was trying to play one of the hardest pieces in all of piano music. She was going to fail. It was only a matter of time, but Maya did not see their smiles. She did not hear their whispers. She was somewhere else now. She was in her grandmother's house. She was sitting at that old broken keyboard. She was 3 years old again. And the music was everything. Her fingers found their way. Not the way they used to. Not with the perfect technique she had learned at the conservatory. But a new way. A different way. Her right hand carried the melody, strong and clear. Her left hand followed. It could not do everything it used to do, so it did something else instead. The trembling in Maya's hand became part of the music. The notes from her left hand were soft and uncertain. They wavered and shook, but this made them more human, more real, more beautiful. The ballade started to grow. The melody became stronger, more urgent. Maya leaned into the piano. Her body moved with the music. Her eyes were closed. Tears were falling down her face. She did not try to stop them. In the audience, something strange was happening. People stopped smiling. They stopped whispering. They started to listen. Really listen. A woman in the front row leaned forward. Her name was Elena Volkov. She was a famous music critic. She had heard thousands of pianists in her life. She had written reviews that could make or break careers. She had never seen anything like this. Elena's mouth fell open. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. She was watching something impossible. A woman with a damaged hand was playing Chopin's Ballade, and she was making it sing. The music told a story. It was the story of loss, the story of grief, the story of dreams that died too soon. Maya was not just playing notes. She was opening her heart. She was showing everyone her pain, her sadness, her love for the people she had lost. The melody climbed higher. It became fierce and passionate. Maya's right hand flew across the keys, fast and sure. Her left hand fought to keep up. Sometimes it missed notes. Sometimes it stumbled. But somehow these imperfections made the music more powerful. They made it real. Victor's smile was gone now. He was staring at Maya with wide eyes. His arms fell to his sides. He could not believe what he was hearing. This was not possible. A cleaning woman could not play like this. A woman with a damaged hand could not play like this. But she was. She was doing the impossible. In the middle of the room, an old man was crying. His name was David Chun. He was no relation to Maya, but he understood what she was playing. He had lost his wife 2 years ago. The music reached into his chest and touched his grief. It told him that he was not alone. It told him that loss was part of life. It told him that love never dies. Maya reached the second part of the ballade. This was where the music changed. It became darker, heavier, like storm clouds gathering in the sky. Her fingers pounded the keys. The piano sang with power and anger. This was the part about the accident, about the rain, about the phone call that destroyed everything. Maya's face twisted with emotion. She was not performing anymore. She was remembering. She was reliving the worst night of her life. The audience sat frozen. Many people were crying now. They did not know Maya's story. They did not know about her parents. But they could feel it in the music. They could hear the pain. They could taste the tears. Even Victor felt something. A crack in his armor. A tiny opening in his hard heart. He had spent 30 years playing perfect music. Technical music. Music that impressed people with its skill. But he had never played anything like this. He had never felt anything like this. The storm in the music began to calm. The notes became softer, sadder. This was the part about grief. About the long nights alone. About the silence that follows tragedy. Maya's left hand was tired. The damaged nerves were screaming. The muscles were burning. But she did not stop. She could not stop. The music had taken control. It was pouring out of her like water from a broken dam. She thought about her grandmother. The old woman had died alone while Maya was far away. She never got to say goodbye. She never got to say thank you. The music said it now. The soft notes were a prayer, a message to heaven. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for carrying that keyboard through the mud. Thank you for loving me. The melody began to rise again. One more time. Building toward the end. Maya gathered all her strength. Her fingers moved faster. Her body swayed. The piano was an extension of her soul now. They were one being, one voice, one heart. The audience leaned forward as one. They held their breath. They knew something special was happening. Something they would remember for the rest of their lives. Elena Volkov, the famous critic, was writing nothing. Her notebook sat forgotten in her lap. Her pen had fallen on the floor. She could not write. She could only feel. Maya raced toward the final part of the ballade. The thundering conclusion that every pianist fears. The part that separates the good from the great. The part that had broken better pianists than her. Her damaged left hand had never worked this hard. It was failing. She could feel it failing. But she pushed anyway. She demanded more. She asked for one last miracle. And somehow, impossibly, her hand answered. The final movement of the ballade exploded through the concert hall. Maya's fingers flew across the keys with a speed and passion that seemed impossible. Her whole body was part of the music now. Her shoulders, her back, her breath. Everything worked together. Everything served the music. The room had transformed. It was not a fancy ballroom anymore. It was a church, a sacred space. The music was not a performance. It was a prayer, a miracle, a resurrection. Maya played with her eyes closed. She was not in the concert hall. She was somewhere else, somewhere deeper. She was in the place where music comes from, the place where souls speak without words. The melody climbed higher and higher. It told the story of Maya's journey, the little girl in the village, the prodigy at the conservatory, the woman who lost everything, the cleaning lady who hid from the world. All these Mayas were playing together. All these lives were singing through her fingers. In the audience, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. They were caught in a spell. The music held them like a warm hand. It would not let them go. Elena Volkov, the famous critic, had tears running down her face. She had reviewed concerts at Carnegie Hall. She had heard the greatest pianists in history. But she had never felt anything like this. This was beyond technique, beyond talent. This was something sacred. A young man in the back row was a music student. His name was Thomas. He had spent years studying piano. He had always dreamed of playing at a high level. Tonight, he understood something new. Technical perfection was not the goal. The goal was to make people feel. The goal was to touch hearts. This woman was doing what he had always dreamed of doing. Victor Ashford stood at the edge of the stage. His face had changed completely. The arrogance was gone. The cruelty was gone. In its place was something he had not felt in many years. He felt humbled. He felt small. He felt like a child who had just learned that everything he believed was wrong. For 30 years, Victor had chased perfection. He had practiced for hours every day. He had memorized every note. He had controlled every movement of his fingers. He had played for presidents and kings. But he had never played like this. He had never poured his soul into the music. He had never made people cry with the truth of his playing. Maya reached the final pages of the ballade. The music became fierce and wild, like a storm at sea, like a fire in a forest. Her damaged left hand was screaming with pain. The nerves felt like they were on fire. But Maya did not stop. She could not stop. The music demanded everything from her. And she gave everything. The notes crashed and rolled like thunder. They climbed like lightning toward the sky. Maya was not playing the piano anymore. The piano was playing her. She was just a vessel, a channel. The music was flowing through her from somewhere beyond this world. She thought about love. The love her parents had for her. The love her grandmother showed every day. The love of music that had saved her life again and again. Even when everything was dark, even when she wanted to give up, the music was always there, waiting for her. Calling her back. The room was electric. People were gripping each other's hands. Strangers who had never met were connected by the music. They felt the same things. They thought the same thoughts. For these few minutes, they were not separate people anymore. They were one audience, one heart, one soul. Maya approached the final chords. The ballade was almost over. Her body was exhausted. Her hands were shaking. Her face was wet with tears. But her spirit was flying. Higher than it had ever flown before. The last phrase of the ballade is famous among pianists. It is one of the most beautiful endings in all of classical music. 4 simple chords that say goodbye, that bring the story to a close, that leave you breathless and changed. Maya played the first chord. It rang out like a bell, pure and clear. Her left hand found the notes perfectly. The damaged nerves did not fail her. Not now. Not at this moment. She played the second chord. It answered the first one. Like a question and a response. Like two voices talking across time. The third chord was softer, sadder. It was the sound of acceptance. The sound of letting go. The sound of peace after a long storm. Maya paused. The whole room waited. The silence was so heavy you could touch it. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. They all knew this was the end. They all knew these were the last notes. She played the final chord. It was perfect. Not technically perfect. Something better than that. Emotionally perfect. Spiritually perfect. The chord said everything that words could never say. It said goodbye to Maya's parents. It said thank you to her grandmother. It said hello to the future. It said that even broken things can make beautiful music. It said that pain can become art. It said that love never dies. The last note faded into silence. Maya's hands remained on the keys. She did not move. She could not move. Everything she had was in that music. There was nothing left. The silence continued. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. The room was completely still. Like time had stopped. Like the world was holding its breath. Maya slowly opened her eyes. She looked at her hands on the piano. The same hands that had been useless for 15 years. The same hands that doctors said would never play again. They had just performed a miracle. She lifted her head. She looked at the audience. She expected to see bored faces, disappointed faces. She expected people to be checking their phones. She expected Victor to be laughing at her, but that is not what she saw. For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. The room was frozen in time. Then everything changed at once. A woman in the front row stood up. Then another person. Then another. The movement spread like a wave through the audience. Within moments, every single person in the room was standing. Hundreds of people. All on their feet. The applause started. It was not polite applause. It was not the kind of clapping people do because they feel they should. This was thunder. This was an explosion of emotion. People were crying and clapping at the same time. They were shouting and cheering. They were releasing all the feelings the music had put inside them. Maya sat at the piano. She could not believe what she was seeing. These people were standing for her. These rich, important, powerful people were standing for the cleaning woman. She looked from face to face. She saw tears on almost everyone. Old men, young women. Famous musicians. Important critics. All of them were crying. All of them were applauding. The sound was so loud it shook the chandeliers. It bounced off the walls. It filled every corner of the room. Maya had never heard anything like it. In all her years at the conservatory, she had never received an ovation like this. Nobody had dot. She tried to stand up. Her legs were weak. They did not want to work. She had given everything to the music. There was nothing left in her body. But somehow she rose. She stood beside the piano. She did not know what to do with her hands. She did not know where to look. The applause continued. It went on and on. People did not want to stop. They wanted to hold on to this feeling. They wanted to stay in this moment forever. Elena Volkov, the famous critic, was clapping so hard her hands hurt. She had found her voice again. She was saying something to the man next to her. She was saying that she had just witnessed one of the greatest performances of her life. She was saying that she would write about this night for years to come. Thomas, the young music student in the back row, was crying like a child. He had learned more in the last 15 minutes than in all his years of study. He understood now what music was really about. It was not about being perfect. It was about being true. It was about being brave. It was about opening your heart and letting people see inside. The applause finally began to fade. People sat down. They wiped their eyes. They whispered to each other about what they had just experienced. But they were not done with Maya yet. They wanted more. They wanted to know who she was. They wanted to understand how this was possible. Then something happened that made everyone gasp. Dr. Ashford walked onto the stage. The man who had mocked Maya, the man who had humiliated her in front of everyone, the man who had challenged her to play. He walked slowly toward her. His face was different now. The arrogance was gone. The cruelty was gone. In their place was something soft, something broken, something human. Victor reached Maya. He stood in front of her. For a moment he said nothing. He just looked at her with eyes that were red from crying. Yes, Victor Ashford had been crying too. The man who had not felt real emotion in decades had tears on his face. He reached up to his chest. His fingers found the small gold pin there, the Steinway artist pin. The pin he had worn proudly for 30 years. The symbol of everything he had achieved. Everything he thought mattered. He removed the pin. He held it in his palm. It sparkled under the stage lights. Such a small thing, but so important. Victor took Maya's hand. It was still trembling. It would always tremble now. He placed the pin in her palm. He closed her fingers around it. I have spent my entire career chasing perfection, Victor said. His voice was rough, raw. I have won every award. I have played for the most powerful people in the world. I thought I knew what music was. I thought I was the best. He paused. He swallowed hard. Tonight you showed me that I knew nothing. Tonight you showed me that perfection is not the point. The point is truth. The point is feeling. The point is courage. He stepped back. He bowed to Maya, a deep bow. A bow of respect. Thank you, he said. Thank you for reminding me why I started playing in the first place. The audience exploded again. More applause. More cheering. More tears. This was not just about the music anymore. This was about redemption. This was about a proud man learning humility. This was about the power of one brave woman to change hearts. Maya looked at the pin in her hand. She looked at Victor. She looked at the crowd still standing and cheering. She did not know what to say. She did not have words big enough for this moment. She thought about her grandmother, the old woman who believed in her when nobody else did. She thought about her parents who died on the way to see her perform. She thought about all the years of silence, all the years of hiding, all the years of thinking her music was dead. It was not dead. It had been sleeping, waiting, growing stronger in the darkness. And tonight it had finally woken up. Maya smiled. It was a small smile, tired but real. She wiped the tears from her face with her trembling hand. She had walked into this room as an invisible woman. A cleaning lady in a $42 dress. A woman with a broken hand and a broken heart. A woman who thought her story was over. She walked out as something else entirely. She walked out as someone who had reminded a room full of masters what music was truly for. Not for awards. Not for fame. Not for proving you are better than others. Music was for connecting souls. Music was for telling truths that words cannot hold. Music was for turning pain into beauty. Maya stepped off the stage. People reached out to touch her hand. They wanted to thank her. They wanted to tell her what her music meant to them. Old strangers became friends. Cold hearts became warm. Outside, the night was dark and quiet. Stars filled the sky. Maya looked up at them. She thought maybe her grandmother was watching. Maybe her parents too. She lifted the golden pin toward the stars. A gift for those who had believed in her. A promise to keep playing, to keep sharing, to keep living. The invisible woman had found her voice, and the world would never forget the sound it made.